He served the city for 14 years without scandal until white officers pulled him over in his own neighborhood, ignored his badge, and cuffed him in front of his son. He sued, and what came next shook the whole department. Sergeant Terrence Miles had been with the department for nearly 15 years. He wasn't a desk copy, was out there every day. Community patrol, homicide scenes, missing persons, the works. He knew the neighborhoods, the families, even the corner kids who'd give him a nod when he rolled by. He'd built trust the hard way, but on a chilly Thursday night, just past 10 p.m., none of that mattered. Terrence was off duty, heading home from a 14-hour shift that ended in paperwork and back pain. He drove a modest gray Ford Edge, one of those cars you forget as soon as it passes. No dark tints, no rims, no broken lights. He was in plain clothes, sweatshirt, jeans, badge tucked into his back pocket. The streets were quiet, just a few blocks from home. He was thinking about heating up leftovers and kissing his wife, Simone, goodnight. That's when the flashing lights hit his rearview mirror. He pulled over, calm but confused. He didn't recognize the patrol car behind him. His first thought, maybe he had a taillight out. Second thought, that sharp, trained instinct that told him something wasn't right. Before he could reach for his license, 2 more squad cars boxed him in front and behind. Terrence exhaled slowly, rolled down his window, and kept both hands on the steering wheel, just like he'd told so many young black men to do over the years. Keep your hands visible. Stay calm. Don't argue. One officer approached from the driver's side, hand already hovering over his holster. The other crept along the passenger side, with his weapon drawn low but ready. They didn't ask for license or registration. Step out of the vehicle. The first one barked. Officer, Terrence began, his voice steady. I'm Sergeant Miles. Badge no. 4138. I'm off duty. You're making a mistake. But the gun was already aimed squarely at his chest. Out of the car. Now. No time to argue. Terrence moved slow, opened the door, and stepped out. As soon as he did, they grabbed his arms, shoved him toward the hood of his SUV, and cuffed him. The metal bit into his wrists. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. All he could do was stare at the cracked sidewalk, silently praying that his son wasn't watching from the window. He wasn't read his rights. No questions were asked, just a lot of short commands, tension, and cold silence. His badge, still in his back pocket, was never checked. More officers arrived. A 4th car, then a 5th. A small crowd formed, neighbors peeking from porches, one woman recording with her phone. Terrence saw his neighbor, Mr. Jacobs, staring from behind his front door curtain, wide-eyed and confused. Jacobs had lived next to Terrence for over a decade. Then he heard it. Dad. It was Caleb, his 14-year-old son, standing on the curb wearing socks and a hoodie, face lit by the patrol car's flashing lights. Simone must have sent him after hearing the noise. Terrence turned slightly enough to meet his son's eyes. It's okay, Caleb, he called out, voiced calm but forced. Go back inside. One of the officers yelled at the boy to move back. That was the moment something cracked in Terrence's chest, not from pain. Not even from fear. From humiliation. Not for being stopped but for being reduced to nothing in front of his own child. The next 10 minutes were a blur. Eventually, a supervisor arrived, a tall white lieutenant with a receding hairline, who clearly recognized Terrence the moment he stepped out of the car. Miles, he said, jaw tightening. He walked straight over to the arresting officers. Voices were lowered. No apologies were made. They uncuffed him. Misunderstanding was all they offered, the same old word. No mention of fit the description. No explanation of why 5 squad cars were needed. No report. Just a vague nod from the supervisor, and you're free to go. Terrence rubbed his wrists. They still burned. He looked around. His neighbors watched silently. Caleb was gone. Simone must have pulled him inside. The officers turned back to their cruisers. One of them, the younger cop with the beard, avoided eye contact. The other one didn't care. No remorse. No fear of consequences. It was like it never happened. Terrence climbed back into his car, closed the door, and just sat there. 14 years wearing the badge, but tonight, to them, he was just another black man in a gray SUV, and for the first time in his career, he wasn't sure which side he belonged to anymore. They just did. Maya was already steps ahead. I'm filing a motion to preserve all digital communications from that night, text messages, GPS logs, dashcam video. If they delete anything, we'll hit them for obstruction. For once, Terrence felt like someone was in his corner, not just standing next to him, but pushing forward with him. Maya wasn't rattled. She'd been here before, and she had a plan. Still, that didn't make the days any easier. The department responded just as Terrence. The union sent out a vague memo claiming full confidence in the officers named, adding that procedures were followed during a rapidly evolving situation. No mention of Terrence by name. No acknowledgement of the lawsuit. Just a polished wall of silence. That Friday, Terrence walked into the precinct for his afternoon shift. Nobody said a word. The stares weren't even subtle anymore. In the break room, a younger cop someone Terrence had trained during field duty got up and left as soon as he walked in. He poured himself a cup of stale coffee, stared out the window for a minute, then returned to his desk. Just another day pretending things were normal. Later that week, things got louder. Local media picked up the lawsuit, first a small write-up in the Tribune, then a spot on the evening news. It wasn't the headline, but it ran during the second segment, just after the weather. They used a department headshot of Terrence from 3 years ago, smiling in uniform. The voiceover told the story in brief, ending with a line that stuck. Miles says the incident shows how racial bias can exist, even within the ranks of law enforcement, and how silence only protects the system, not the people. The next day, national outlets started calling Maya's office MSNBC, Reuters. Even a podcast that covered law enforcement whistleblowers asked for an interview. Maya told him to wait. Don't speak until we get the body cam footage. That's when you talk. Terrence agreed. But Caleb didn't wait. On Monday morning, Simone called him from the school parking lot. You need to talk to your son, she said. What happened? There was a group of boys making jokes, calling him cop son, saying you were faking it for money. Caleb shoved one of them, got sent to the office. Terrence closed his eyes. Is he suspended? No. They gave him a warning. But you should talk to him. That night, father and son sat together on the back porch. No phones, no distractions. Just the dark sky and the creak of the wooden steps. I know I shouldn't have pushed him, Caleb said, but I got mad. He said you were lying. Terrence sighed. I don't care about the push. I care that you're carrying something you shouldn't have to. Caleb kicked a pebble. Why would they say you're making it up? Because the truth makes them uncomfortable, Terrence said. It means they have to admit things are broken. That racism isn't just something we talk about. It's something people live through. Evan with a badge. Caleb looked up at him. You ever wish you didn't become a cop? Terrence thought about it. Really thought. No, he said finally. I just wish the system valued who I am as much as the job I do. Caleb nodded slowly. Me too. A few days later, Maya called again. They've turned over partial footage. It's bad. How bad? Terrence asked. It shows everything. Guns drawn. You identifying yourself twice. Them cuffing you anyway. And then the supervisor shows up and tells them to back off. And they argue with him. We're releasing it. Terrence exhaled. It was happening. The public would finally see it. He wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't trying to stir things up. He was simply telling the truth, and now the camera